these two leading politicians for the far right parties that Netanyahu is beholden to,
Vancouver and Smotrich, yes.
yes, openly called for ethnic cleansing in Gaza. I know you don't have the quotes in front of you, but do you recall what their language is like?
Well, I mean, they talk about voluntary departure. They're smart enough to know they don't talk about forced deportation. They talk about voluntary
Okay.
departure.
And they're not talking about genocide.
No, they don't.
Open.
They don't use the term genocide. No, but what they basically are saying is, implicitly, let's make things so awful that people voluntarily leave. And Netanyahu has adopted the same language since Trump began talking about a Gaza Riviera, where he too talked about no more Palestinians. Now, Trump has given up that language. Netanyahu has continued it. So, do they use the term genocide? No, they deny that they're committing genocide. They do talk openly about their aim being so-called voluntary dislocation. And the entire practice of this starvation is aimed at creating those conditions where Palestinians feel they have no choice but to flee.
Who is it that this article is directed toward that you think is most problematically not accepting that this is genocide?
Well, in the article, what I explained is that the public conception of genocide is very much colored by the Holocaust and to some extent by the Rwandan genocide. And those are both cases where at a certain point, the aim became, for the Nazis to kill every Jew they could find, for the Hutu extremists in Rwanda to kill every Tutsi they could find. These were genocides aimed at destroying a group in whole, to use the terminology of the Genocide Convention. But the Genocide Convention also defines genocide as being an intent to destroy a group in part, either through killing or through creating conditions unsuitable to life or other things as well. And I said that that's really the way to understand the genocide in Gaza. It is genocide not as the end, but genocide as a means for forced deportation. And the analogy I use, just to take it out of the Gaza situation for a moment, is what the Myanmar army did with the Rohingya, where they went in 2017 and killed roughly 10,000 Rohingya with the aim of forcing 730,000 Rohingya to flee to Bangladesh. So this was genocide for the ends of ethnic cleansing. It was genocide as a means. Now, that's not typically how people think about genocide, because they think about it as intending to destroy a group in whole, but that's not what the treaty says. The one practical difficulty is that the International Court of Justice, I think also influenced by this Holocaust view of the genocide, of what genocide is, has said that if you need to infer intent from conduct, that you can only infer genocidal intent if that's the only inference that is possible, which doesn't actually make sense when genocide is used as a means, because almost by definition, there's an alternative intent, the intent to ethnically cleanse. And they made this ruling in a case of Croatia versus Serbia, over a decade ago. And I think that they are going to need to revisit that. Initially, it will be in the Myanmar case because that's coming before them first, but then in the Gaza case. And I think the fair interpretation would be that there could be dual intent, that as long as you prove the intent to destroy a group adequately, you can demonstrate genocide, even if genocide is for another purpose, even if there's an intent to commit another crime with the genocide. So that's, what I argued in the Guardian piece is the way that we should understand what's going on in Gaza, but that's also the jurisprudential shift that the International Court of Justice will have to make.